curry roasting on a cow dung fire, Kuthumiego shouting in your ear. Namaste! Namaste! It is I, Kuthumiego, coming to love you on this day. I've been asked by Tobias and that other son of a bitch you call Saint Germain. He's not quite so bad. I've had many, many incarnations on earth, and one of the most memorable that I had was approximately 500 to 600 years BC. I was known back then as the philosopher called Pythagoras, a Greek philosopher. I was a philosopher. I was a mathematician. And I found it fascinating because I was trying to understand the world through math and through philosophy. But I came to understand, not in that lifetime, but much later, I came to understand that the numbers don't create the reality. The mathematics don't shape the universe. They're simply in response to a very personal and very intimate energy called the soul self, called you, the creator. But in many, many lifetimes, I came through as a man. And one lifetime in particular, as Balthazar, one of the three wise men. Indeed, that was me. Helping to deliver the gifts, a little bit of incense, a little bit of myrrh here and there, get in good with Yeshua. He's going to be famous. In that lifetime, I was noble, but I continued my philosophical studies. I continued my mathematical studies. But something new entered in now. And it was this whole area of spirituality. It was the first lifetime that there was a renewed focus on the spiritual aspect. That is why I was so keenly interested in this whole birth of Yeshua. But yet I would have to say, even in that lifetime, I got stuck in my own self. You see, I was a seeker. I've been a seeker as long as I can remember. That energy of being the seeker was carried over into yet other lifetimes. I became Thutmose III. Thutmose, the grand ruler of Egypt, the conqueror, the warrior. Oh, when I arrived at the throne, I had them sculpt statues of me in gold, in stone. Saint Francis of Assisi. It was a good job. I didn't have much abundance, but I loved the animals and they loved me. I did a lot of suffering. Felt I had to. A lot of persecution. It was the thing to do at the time. I didn't so much like the clothes, but I loved the title, Saint. Saint Francis. So I came back into a royal family in India. And they called me Shah. Shah Jahan. It was all mine. The riches. The big parties. Having built one of the grandest temples the planet has ever seen. I have done great things. have done amazing things. I have built identities of my human self, filled with fame and notoriety and importance, and names that live on, teachings that live on, buildings that are still here. But they were all just stories. All just stories. So what did I do? Came back yet again in my lifetime as Kuthumiego. Kuthumiego, the searcher, the seeker. Why not? I continued that passion. You see, the passions, what you study, what makes your heart sing, what makes your brain click, they tend to follow you lifetime after lifetime. So I came in as Kuthumiego, Lao Sing, and I studied from my very early days. My parents, they were scholars. My studies took me to London. I fancied myself again as a philosopher, as a studier, and as a seeker of truth. I studied very, very hard, day and night, had no social life whatsoever. Studied very, very hard for 4 years. At the end of this 4-year period, while walking the path along the university one day, while finally taking note of things that had always been there, the trees, the sky, the birds, I suddenly realized I knew nothing. I had studied, I had worked hard, but hadn't learned a thing about life. That caused a quake to go throughout my entire being. Felt like every part of me was being ripped open. Ultimately caused me to have what you would now call a mental breakdown. Right in the university lawn. Falling on the ground. I shut down. My body did not function anymore. I had withered away to nothing other than skin and bones. I was put into a bedridden state. Everything broke down. My mind, my body. They tell me that I went comatose. I had pushed my mind to such a degree that it actually broke. It was a terrifying dream that lasted 2 years. It was like being in the worst nightmare you could ever imagine. Nothing made sense. I had no sense of my body anymore. I had no sense of me. Pure nothingness. Cold, dark, frightening. In this place of sheer, utter nothingness. I sensed the light. It was the most amazing, beautiful, simple thing I could possibly imagine in this moment of pure nothingness. And I called out, although no words came, no sound came, but I called from the depth of my being, "Who are you?" And this light said, "I am Akira. I am Akira, your soul, your being. I am you." We sat for a long time, feeling each other, remembering each other, feeling how we had been separated by the oceans of experience on earth, by the seas of time, by the densities of earth itself. I said, "Akira, what finally put me in this state of comatose? What finally put me into my nightmare and then into the void and the emptiness?" And Akira said, "I did, out of love and compassion for you. For you are me." when you were created from my love as an expression to walk upon the face of the earth, to take on a human identity, I gave you freedom. For a creator always grants freedom to their creations. I gave you freedom to discover, to walk your own path. Otherwise, without this freedom, we would never have this nectar of wisdom. I gave you the freedom to go forth, and you did. But Akira, I said, you then interfered. You then terminated what you had created. So therefore, I must just be your puppet. I feel deceived, Akira. I feel betrayed by you, my soul. There was another long pause, and Akira said, dear Kuthumiego, we had an agreement. If you ever got lost, that I could call you back. If you ever forgot, I could come to get you. If you ever strayed too far from the path, I could help put you back on. Kuthumiego, I nearly lost you. Nearly lost you to the mind. Nearly lost you into the absorption of your identity, into your ego. Even though you are a humble being, Kuthumiego, I nearly lost you to the ego of your mind, and therefore I interfered. I brought you here for this talk. Kuthumiego took a deep breath. Said, what next? Do we integrate back together? Do I become nothing back into you, Akira? Am I a failure in the expression of your soul? Do I die here? Die a death not just of the body, but of the consciousness. Akira smiled, as I've never seen Akira smile before. No, Kuthumiego, I could never do that to you. I have far too much love for you. You will go forth. But I'm going to ask you something, Kuthumiego. When you go back to your body, which will wake up here soon, when you go back to your life, would you bring me with you? Would you bring me back with you? We've never done that before. I've never done that with any of my other life expressions ever. Would you bring me back with you? Indeed, Akira. This is what we planned. We planned to meet again. We planned to talk like this. We planned how I could bring you back with me. Akira, you've been far away in the distance. Perhaps I didn't feel I was worthy to bring you into my life, so I kept you afar. Perhaps I didn't feel that earth was clean enough for you, that you would become tainted, that you would become wounded, like me, the human, has become. So I kept you far away. But I know now it is time to bring you in, for nothing can tarnish you, nothing can pollute you, nothing can distort you. Oh, perhaps I, the human expression, can become twisted, can become wounded, but you can't. Perhaps, Akira, together, we can go to earth and be the full expression of the I am. In that moment, I awoke in my bed at the university, filthy, skinny, dirty, and smiling. My eyes opened to the world around me, and for the first time, I knew what true consciousness was. For the first time in all of my lifetimes, and the lifetime. For the first time, I felt I wasn't alone. Akira, my soul, was with me. I had brought her back. Never to be alone again, never to wonder about where my soul was or what a soul was. Never to have to ask the question, who am I, ever again. Namaste. It is I, Kuthumiego. My talk today is about the unlimited, uninhibited, sensual experience of an enlightened human. I want to talk to you about what it was like to be enlightened and be walking on earth as a physical human being. Perhaps it will give you just a bit of an idea of what it might be like for you. I went through a traumatic, very difficult enlightenment, but it was just an experience. For a long time, I lay in a type of comatose state of being. But I came through it. And when I came back into my body, back into my life, I did ask myself at that moment, am I enlightened? I still questioned, am I enlightened? And I knew that I could choose at that moment. And I learned the word yes, yes. I am enlightened, therefore it became so. I was no longer carrying the burden of my family. And you know, in my culture, there is that baggage that is carried. And in my enlightenment, I realized my mother and father were no longer that. They were blessed souls, dear beings, who went through the process of bringing me into this earth, but they were not my parents, and I was not them, and I let them go. When I said yes to enlightenment, I felt a tremendous sense of release and freedom, even of my past lives. And I had had many, and many that were notable. I had been a Shah. I had been what had been called a wise man, even a saint. I had been a pharaoh, a mathematician, a scientist, a writer, a philosopher, a king. I had been a warrior. I had been an artist. All of these things, beautiful expressions of my soul. But they were not me. They wanted to be released. They wanted to be their own unique expressions, not tied into Kuthumiego or any of the others. They wanted all of those threads that had been woven into the karmic tapestry to be released, so they too could move forward. I became, in my own eyes, much more beautiful. I could look into a mirror and be content with who I was. I could look into the mirror and see the love that was coming from my eyes unto me. My thoughts were no more. My thoughts were no more. And that was the greatest relief of all. No longer did I hear that voice of condescendence, of judgment. No longer did I have this driving need to figure out every part of life. Because now I had an intuitive knowingness. For the next 24 years that I walked the face of the earth, there were times I would not need to eat at all for days or weeks on end. Didn't need to, didn't feel the desire, because I was even free of food. I could breathe in the air as you can right now, for it contains energy. It contains nutrients, absolutely. It contains everything you need to sustain your body, your mind, your body of consciousness. But then there are times too when it is just a delightful experience to eat. I then decided to set off, traveling to visit all of the places that my soul had had lifetimes in the past. I set off, my dear friends, without a dime in my pocket, no money at all, but not worried about it. Because the moment I said, yes, I am enlightened, all the abundance was there. In the moment. Wherever I could find music being made by humans, I would go there to sing around the fire, to play the instruments myself. I had not learned how to play any in my lifetime, but I quickly picked it up, and I found music had a new depth, had a new sensual nature to it, and it filled my soul to hear the music, to dance with it, to sing with it. I wasn't interested in just sex. I was interested in the true tantra, the true love, and I did have lovers. Not a lot, but they were so meaningful, taught me so much about the body, the soul, taught me so much about sharing, and I realized this is something that the angels cannot do. This is something only the humans can partake of, and I enjoyed it tremendously. I usually walked, sometimes took horses, sometimes stayed for weeks at a time at somebody's house. Every step, every moment was beautiful. I was finally experiencing life. I was finally giving myself the gift of sensual living. For 24 years, I taught. I taught simply. I didn't teach from books. I taught from life. I taught the simple things like saying yes, like loving self. I taught how energies worked without getting into science and physics. I taught that energy loves to move. Energy loves to be used for expression. I taught the simple nature of spirit. I taught even those who were religious scholars, I taught them that spirit is simplicity. Spirit is alive. Spirit here is here on earth. I talked to them about my soul, Akira, but not like it was in a far-off place, like it was me in that moment. Kuthumi, Akira, all together. All together. When it was time for me to leave, I breathed into my dreams as the boat went out from the shore, out onto the quiet lake. And as I breathed, I went into a trance-like state. And as I breathed, I became one with the waters and with the air and with this grand place called Earth. And with my soul, Akira and I together in the boat. And we did one final melding with each other in this place called Earth. And then I vanished.